Good morning, everyone. This is Richard. This morning I'll be working on my 2019 Silverado 1500. It is the 2.7 liter turbo, new for the 2019 model year. This morning I'll be changing out the spark plugs. All right, so the tools that you're going to need specifically to change the spark plugs are a 3/8" ratchet. I like to pull all my extensions out. You'll primarily use these two. This one's a tad bit too long, but I pulled it out just in case. You'll definitely need a swivel, especially for that number 4 cylinder, maybe even number 3. I guess it just depends on which extension you have, right? You can still use this one. If you use either one of these two for the last 2 cylinders, number 3 and 4, you're definitely going to need a swivel because the cowl doesn't afford you the clearance you need. So in either case, a swivel is beneficial regardless of which extension. You're going to need a 9/16 or a 14 millimeter spark plug socket. And then for your accessory bolts, you're going to use your 1/4" ratchet, maybe even a swivel. I didn't need one. And an 8 and a 10 millimeter socket. You're definitely going to be deep sockets because the shroud bracket on the back end of the motor that covers the 4th cylinder coil needs to at least be loosened and pulled up out of the way if you don't remove it. So deep sockets to remove those nuts in the back. That way you can get this job completely done. All right, so here I am standing on my trusty chair. Here's the 2.7 liter turbo 4. Despite being a 4-cylinder truck, GM still managed to shove half the motor underneath this cowl and the dash. So I'm standing on my chair. I'll be laying across the engine bay, just be able to reach those last 2 coil packs back there to get those spark plugs out. If you aren't familiar with the spark plugs, they aren't your traditional 5/8" spark plug sockets. They've gone to a smaller socket size, which for me, I'm used to using the 5/8 in 90% of my vehicles. So it's either a 14 millimeter or a 9/16 socket. All right, so to remove the coil packs, right, you got your connector right here. I already loosened these bolts right here a little bit, but you have the connector right here. You're gonna preferably want to remove that, just so you reduce the possibility of pulling any wires out of the connectors. I couldn't remove the connectors for like that. There's a lot of heat down here. The other 3 coil packs, so rather than possibly damage them, I went ahead and just set them to the side. Strong recommendation. That way I didn't spend all day trying to remove them completely out without possible damage to the wiring harness and connectors. All right, so you got 1, 2, 3, 4 coil packs. These are a 8 millimeter socket right here on each one of those. And like I mentioned before, the spark plug is going to be a 14 millimeter or a 9/16 spark plug socket. All right, so as you can see, I've already removed 1 coil pack, being that these are pretty new, right? Relatively new connectors. This truck's got just under 60,000 miles. And of course the heat, they were a little difficult to remove. Just as a recommendation, I would keep all the coils in the order that you remove them in. I guess for the sake of knowing if you have an issue, knowing where that problem comes from. So I will definitely leave them in the order I'll set them to the side and I'll put them in the order that they come off in, and I'm not going to mix them up. Okay, so here we are at cylinder number 4, right? Here's the 4th coil pack, and you have this bracket right here. Why GM would fucking put a bracket right here, I don't know. They decided to block the number 4 coil pack in a manner that you can't even wiggle it out. I had to wiggle number 3 out right here. Because it's, whatever this is, it was right in between the two. But back here, I'm not even going to be able to wiggle it out. That bracket's going to have to come out. So my simple spark plug job just cost me, I don't know, depending on how long it takes me to get this one, and particularly the bolt back here, out. You got another bolt. See if I can get it. You got another bolt right there, and I'm hoping there isn't one back here, but it looks like there is right where my finger is. So I'm gonna have to undo all those just to get to the 4th spark plug. So while I do that, I'm gonna pause my videos because I'm not gonna bore you with that. All right, so here we are. I finally got the 4th coil pack off. I did recommend you take these off, but they are a little difficult to remove. I managed to get the first one off right here, but for some reason I couldn't do the others, so I just set them to the side. But like I said, I recommend you take them off so you don't risk you know, breaking connectors, snapping wires, pulling wires out of connectors, and so on. But if you find yourself in a position where you can't, just make sure you're careful when you do that. I removed both of these bolts. There's one here and one in the back, the 2 nuts. On this side, I removed that front nut right there. The back nut I just loosened. It did give me enough that I could wiggle it out. So I was contemplating removing this bracket entirely, but it also is a mount for the back side of the plastic shroud cover that covers the motor. So I won't be able to. So it's gonna have to stay on if I want to keep that cover on, which I intend to. So I'll just have to deal with it. I'm about to pull these plugs. Plugs are right here, as you can see, right? Deep well. I can't even touch the spark plug with my short sausage fingers. But yeah, so using a 9/16 spark plug socket, I'm gonna remove all 4 of them. So as I was removing the 4th spark plug, I realized I didn't have a lot of clearance because of that cowl and dash on top. Okay, so here we have you have to use a 90-degree swivel 1, 2, 3, 4 in that order on your extension to be able to remove that spark plug. Look in good condition. A little bit on the lean side, but unfortunately that's just an EPA standard that the dealers have to abide by. But you know, doesn't look like there's any oil leaks coming in. I'm not burning any oil. No cracking, no damage to the plug, so that's always good. They are iridium plugs. That's what they come from the factory. So could I have gone a little bit longer on those plugs? Possibly. But being that my truck's under warranty, I'm going to go ahead and just do my maintenance when it's required. These are a little pricey, especially coming from the dealer. They were $15 a pop. So at $15 a pop, you know, I started looking around. I couldn't find them. And when the internet did pop them up, they were a GM Authority, or all these, you know, internet stores where I could have got them for anywhere from $8 to $10. But then I have to pay for shipping. Then I have to wait. And I went ahead and went the convenient way and just dropped the $15 a plug. FedEx truck. $15 a plug to go ahead and just have them now. So I have to eat that up. $60 for 60,000 miles. Not a bad investment. Not the most expensive thing I've thrown into this truck. So I'll just have to eat that cost up. So back to the plugs. I did gap them. And the gap, I lost the page. Where'd they go? Here we go. Gap, 0.65 to 0.75 millimeters, or 0.026 to 0.030 inches. I did gap the old ones. They fell well below the 0.030. I checked the gap on the new ones. They fell on the lower end at about 0.2728. So judging by the gap on these plugs that are sitting at 0.28 or so, I'm not gonna reduce the gap. I'm not gonna risk breaking the electrodes on these for, you know, a fraction of an inch. So I'm gonna leave them as is and just throw them all in. All right, so here we go. I'll go ahead and get them put back in. So this thing is kind of shallow on the socket. Now take caution when you're installing the plugs, because it is a deep well. You don't want those spark plugs to fall out of your socket, and then you're headed right back to the dealer, handing them another $15 for one spark plug. So just take caution. All right, you don't need a whole bunch of torque on these also. So when you put them in, it didn't take me much of anything to loosen them up, to remove them. So just gonna hand tighten them down, then I give them a little nudge, and that's it. All right, these are aluminum heads. So like I said, aside from the risk of dropping your spark plug down the well, you don't want to over tightening these. You don't want to over tighten. Can't speak this morning. You don't want to over tighten them into these aluminum heads. All right, it'll cost you a couple $1,000 for that service. You're gonna have to try to remove that spark plug. So take caution while you do this. All right, so I'll go ahead and speed through this. All right, now this last one, this fourth plug, is a little tricky because I did have to remove the socket from the extension to get it in. So, as you can see, here's the bracket. There's where you're trying to get it in, right? There's not a whole lot of space up here, so I had to angle it and add the extension, or remove the extension on the way out before I even pulled it out of the hole. So take caution when you do this part, because it's very tricky on this back end, especially with not having enough room. All right, so for number 4, spark plug. This was just a little bit too long because of this stupid firewall. Going back into that 4th area, right, that 4th spark plug hole, it's just not enough clearance for me to use this. So what I have done is I've opted for a swivel, right? It gives me up to 90 degrees. I went with a shorter extension. I'm going to try to fit it and see if I'm able to even use it. If not, I can probably use it with a longer extension, but let's see how this works out here. Slides right in, and okay, so that one will work. So your little, I think it's like a 2 or 3 inch extension, your short 3/8 inch ratchet extension with a swivel, 90-degree swivel, works just fine. It might even work with my longer extension, but and actually I might need that longer extension because I don't have enough clearance. You see right here, I don't have enough clearance to attach my socket with all this other gadgetry around the area. So I'm gonna go ahead and swap now that I have that in, and go ahead and just move forward from there. So I'll go back to my, I'm assuming this is like 6 inches. Yep, there we go. So the 6-inch extension will work with a 90-degree swivel on the 4th cylinder. So I've hand tightened it, and I always recommend you look up your factory specs for torque. All right, I'm kind of accustomed to tightening spark plugs. They don't need a whole lot. So now I'm gonna go ahead and reconnect my coil packs, which I'm glad that they're as flexible as they are, because this is a very compromising area. I'm definitely glad for that, because there's some coil packs that aren't as flexible. They're very rigid. So I think in designing this, GM did something right and realized that these coil packs are not going to be super friendly based on their design of everything that they put around these freaking coil packs. So now to reinstall, it's going to be straightforward. Put each coil pack back where it came from, and we'll keep moving forward. These coil packs don't need to be tightened down too much, right? This is an aluminum valve cover. You're just trying to secure them. Again, look up your factory specs for your vehicle, or if you have a Chevy, look them up. I'm just going to hand tighten them and give them another nudge so I don't strip the aluminum. All right, that's on there. All right, this bracket back here, I will secure here at the end All right, there's that bracket right there. I got the nut sitting right here. Anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and secure this last, so I don't have to worry about. It right now. So let's continue with the others. This number 3 was a little not as challenging as the 4th one, but it is sitting between. I'm assuming this is some type of emissions gadget. I don't know. I'm still learning a lot about this vehicle. Regardless, it is a little compromising. And it puts me in a compromising position, being that I'm only 5'3". I'm laying on my engine bay. No, I'm not this tall. I'm laying on my engine bay with my feet hanging out. I'm in a very compromising position, so trying to get this done in a timely manner while laying in my engine bay. I do have to say that I didn't know what to expect. I test drove this vehicle in October of 2019. They told me it was a 4-cylinder. I decided I was going to try it. I expected it to be slow as hell, underpowered. It hasn't disappointed. I'm not one that hauls on a regular basis, so I honestly don't need a V8. My last truck was a Dodge Ram 1500 with the 4.7 liter from 2003. I had that thing for 15 years, and it did me well. Gas hog, right? Dodge isn't really known for their fuel economy, or at least they weren't. They're a lot better these days, but I had that for 15 years, so coming off of a V8 truck, I didn't know what to expect from a 4-cylinder turbo truck. But like I said, it hasn't disappointed. I traveled from Central Texas, Killeen, Fort Hood area, to Georgia when I PCS'd to Fort Stewart. About 1,000 miles, give or take. I hauled about 5,000 pounds, and I averaged about 12 miles to the gallon. And transmission shifted like butter. The turbo engaged when I needed it. All right, there we go. There's that. Make sure you lock these in place, right? These little widgets, these little locking mechanisms that are made out of plastic. Unclick them. Click them back in to lock them in place, secures it. But yeah, as I was saying, this truck, for what it is, right? Light duty, 1500, 2.7 liter turbo with the 8-speed transmission. It didn't disappoint. Now, I have had some transmission issues. I started having transmission problems at 7,500. Got jerky, and it was bad enough that it illuminated the check engine light. So I took it in, warranty work. They said its solenoids failed or whatever. You know, these transmissions are pretty finicky these days. So at 7,500, I did have some warranty work for some failed solenoids, and the valve body. So I had that done. The transmission, especially when it's cold, it can get a little jerky from time to time. So that's kind of just one of those things that you may or may not have to deal with. I don't know. But I still do. I'm about to service the transmission here soon. It's kind of overdue. Chevy recommends, I think it's 45,000 mile service intervals for the transmission. So yeah, look at that. So anyway, that's coming up next. I will have a video because I have not been able to find many videos servicing a year-to-date transmission. They are the previous models, the 2019 and earlier 8 speeds. I'm assuming they're going to be very similar, judging by the videos that I've seen. But I will post my own video for our newer vehicles. If there hasn't been one posted yet, I haven't been able to find one. There might be, and if you do have one, feel free to drop the link in the comments below. I'm definitely interested in watching it to see if there's anything that I need to look out for, any critical steps I need to take. But judging by previous videos of previous 8-speed models for GM, it's pretty straightforward. No dipstick, so I have to find the dipstick hole and utilize either a really large long funnel or a pump to go ahead and install all the transmission fluid. So that's next. I'm going on a whole spiel right now, so I'm gonna go ahead and finish this up. I'll let you watch what I'm doing here just so you can see, just for educational entertainment purposes. But that's pretty much it. All right, so all the spark plugs and coil packs have been installed right down the center. I'm going to be working on that. Sorry for the glare. I'm going to be working on this bracket next. I can barely reach it and I'm standing on the damn chair. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and get in there, tighten that down, put the cover back on, start the truck, take it out for a spin, make sure everything's good, and call it a day. That's it. Looks like we are complete. I'll go ahead and get this thing started. Make sure everything is where it's supposed to be. Make sure no check engine lights come on, etc. Let me take all my tools out of here before I break something, which I've been known to do. So let's go ahead and take everything that doesn't belong inside the engine bay out. Always a good idea. All right. Excellent. Here we go. All right, hood's open. Yeah, I know the hood's open. All right, so no check engine lights. Been letting it run for a couple of minutes. Air filter I got a K&N throw-in air filter factory replacement, so that'll be good. I'm not too worried about that. My brakes are pretty good, but I mean, at 58,000 miles, I'll probably be inspecting them soon. Well, I can tell you I will be inspecting them soon, because I'm about to rotate my tires as soon as I change my oil, as I'm about to make a 2,000 mile trek back to Texas. So definitely something I'm going to inspect. I don't suspect that they'll be needing to be replaced, obviously, but you know, almost 60,000 miles on the factory set, definitely worth an inspection. Fuel economy, I wouldn't even worry about that. I live 2 miles from work, so I probably spend more time idling than I do driving to work. I purposely have to take the long way home just to get my truck nice and warm instead of running it cold all the time. Fuel range at my current trends are about 330 miles to the tank, which is a little low. If I stay on the highway, I can get over 400, so it's just one of those things. I do a lot of stop and go driving. I live in the city, so I spend, like I said, I probably spend as much time idling as I do driving. Oil life is right at 10%, so 10% is about 5,000 miles for me based on my records. That's coming up too. I use AMSOIL. I use AMSOIL. At a minimum, I use AMSOIL boosted. I will use OE. If I'm not mistaken, I think I used OE. I was looking at my records. All my AMSOIL signature series went up to 8,000 miles. Generally between 6,500 and 8,000 miles is when I was changing AMSOIL signature series during those oil change intervals. If I'm not mistaken, like I said, I think I used OE on this fill, and at least the truck knows the difference as far as how that oil is breaking down based on those oil sensors. I'm not too educated on those oil sensors. I know a lot of them are algorithms and starts and stops, so it could be that I just been driving a lot more shorter drives, which is indicating obviously a more severe service that requires my oil to be changed a little more frequently. So at this point, I'm at 5,000 miles, which is anywhere from 15 to 3,000 miles shy of what I've done in the past. But like I said, I'm not driving as long as I used to in the past. Here in Georgia, I don't drive my truck very much, and when I do, it's anywhere from 2 to 10 miles on the days I do drive it. So that's probably part of the reason why my oil life has been cut a little bit. Obviously, I need to increase my tire pressures. They're just a little bit low, right? Not critical at this point, but I should probably fill them up just a little bit. So there you have it. The Chevy Silverado 2.7 liter turbo. Mine is a 2019 model. Just changed the spark plugs. Pretty straightforward. The only differences were the spark plugs were a different size. They're a little bit smaller. So you do have to use that 9/16 as I mentioned before. And that's it. Pretty straightforward. Started the truck right up. No check engine lights. No computer reprogramming needed. Just started right up. I'm about to take it for a test drive here on my way to my appointment. Hopefully nothing comes up, and we'll go from there. Thanks for watching. If you have any comments, please drop them below. Any recommendations, just drop them below. Follow, subscribe. I've got more coming up. I've got transmission service coming up, and I'll be rotating the tires. I'll be inspecting the brakes. So I plan on doing some videos just to show you my process as I conduct those services for my truck. Thanks again.